Hi guys, Happy New Year to you. Happy 2026. We're back here at the studio, the 254 podcast, and today is a very, very special day. This is the podcast that I've been looking forward to making alongside many of the others. Today's topic is faith and influence. I know some of you see my locks, my dreadlocks, and you're thinking, what kind of faith is this guy going to discuss? But I'm really excited to have with me two gentlemen who I respect. One is Tobias, a reverend, and the other is Jeff. I'll let them introduce themselves to you, but I hope that you learned something from this session today. This is Andrew Levi, and this is 254's podcast, Faith and Influence. So, gentlemen, how are you both doing?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic.
It's a great day to be here, and I'm just looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you both. So I think the first place to start is how we all became interested in leadership. So maybe I'll start with myself. For me, as a resident of Kenya and of the African continent, you look around and sometimes you ask yourself, why aren't certain problems fixed? Whether it's a drainage or other issues in society. And usually we've been led to believe that leadership is the answer to some of these challenges that we meet. So for me, I feel like I'm interested in leadership almost as a matter of accident, by virtue of the circumstances I find myself living in. But how did you, Tobias, get interested in leadership? And how did you get interested in leadership, Jeff?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a very interesting question. I went to Bible school because I've had a call, but I said that I will not serve the Lord without training. So I went to Bible school. 20 years ago, I was planting a church in 10 Estate. And I did a research and I found out that between 95 to 98% of every prayer request that came to me as a pastor was about financial challenges and needs. Pastor, my house is locked. My children don't have school fees. We don't have food. I was a young man, younger than this time, and I found myself confused because you're getting into leadership, challenges are overwhelming, you're a man of faith. And I found myself very helpless to really see need that you can't help except just pray for them. And that kind of really triggered me to do a research to find out why is it that there's a lot of challenges, financial challenges among believers, people of faith, because there were people who are serious with their faith, they were fasting, they were praying, they were doing their devotions as usual, but yet challenges were very, very real in their real world. And I found myself helpless as a pastor. So that kind of triggered me to really start this journey of research and moving into the space of leadership.
That's fascinating, Tobias. On that point, you mentioned financial challenges. And I think in full disclosure, we should also say that in addition to being a reverend, you also are a banker by training and profession. Can you say a little bit about that? Do you think that there's a connection between faith and what you do in real life? For example, faith and banking has led you to maybe direct your ministry towards addressing financial challenges?
Yes, when my research began in trying to find out why is it that there's a lot of financial challenges among believers. So I started doing a lot of research. And then, by the way, I didn't join banking by just, I think I went into banking by default. And I believe that my place in being a banker is really to help me understand this question that I was asking myself. So 13 years ago, one of the leaders of the bank had a conversation with somebody who used to invite me to preach. And they said, we are looking for a pastor who can help us understand church, because at that particular time, banks were looking for churches because they found out that churches were going to be very important clients. So that's why I found myself in banking. And to me, my prayer was being answered because I really wanted to understand the financial world to be able to help the church, the body of Christ.
So you talk about Christianity and you talk about finances, and you're saying that those two have merged themselves within your story. So in short, are you saying that money is not the root of all evil, but the love of money or coveting money too much is the root of evil? Are you saying there's a healthy relationship between faith And finance?
Very, very healthy. You know,
Okay.
one of the things that I realized was a challenge. And in one of my findings, why there's a lot of financial challenges among believers is that the way the Christianity was brought to us was not holistic in its approach.
Okay.
Many of us were being prepared to go to heaven, but not to live here effectively.
Not to live on earth.
Yes.
Interesting.
And as a result of that, there was no financial planning. There was no concept of saving and investing among believers because it was being seen as evil. Whilst we want to go to heaven. But I realized that was really one of the major challenges that has affected Africans and even the Kenyan Christianity to date.
Fantastic. So, Jeff, Tobias says that life is not just about faith alone, but faith and financial planning and also just living this world in practice. My curiosity is, how did you get interested or first engage with leadership, and what's really drawn you and kept you along that path? And if you wish to share also, what is your background? Because many of us come to faith with an interesting array of experiences. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll have to take you back to when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
I was a brilliant, buoyant boy, and my English teacher identified me and selected me to represent the school at a speaking competition.
Fantastic.
For the first time, I went up stage and I saw hundreds of eyes piercing into mine, and I panicked.
Okay.
In that panic, I forgot everything I was supposed to say. I stood there for what seemed like an eternity until they just ushered me off the stage. I was so disappointed, disillusioned, discouraged.
Okay.
I vowed from that time, I will never speak in public again.
Interesting.
And I went through my primary school, high school, university, my first initial jobs, until I realized this was career limiting. So I got a mentor and I said, I need help. They told me, you need to know how to communicate. They led me to Toastmasters. I don't know if you've heard of Toastmasters. I joined and I began to develop my communication skills.
Okay.
Because I was concerned at work, I was not getting promoted. I was being passed over. People would come, I would train them, and they'll get promoted. Another one would come. That's why I went for a mentor. They said, you look for Toastmasters, join, it will help you.
Okay.
I'm glad I listened. That's why I began to rediscover my 9-year-old brilliant, buoyant boy.
Okay.
I rediscovered my communication skills.
Okay.
And that's where now my journey in leadership began.
Okay.
Because before then, I wouldn't volunteer for leadership or any kind of responsibilities. I wanted to be at the back of the room, behind the pillar, in the dark corner of the room, all the time. So that's when now I began to express myself. Now leadership positions began to come. Now I had to be on a very fast track because I'd been left behind.
Okay.
In this development, I began now to get really senior responsibilities, the last of which was the chairman of a board of a pension fund, $7 million. When I usually tell people when I sat in that room, I looked to my left and my right, the people sitting there were like 5 ranks above me.
Wow.
But when you're in that boardroom, because of my communication skills, I could run an entire board meeting, everyone attentive, listen to me. So my journey to leadership actually came because of my communication skills.
Okay. That is really fascinating because what I'm hearing you say, so for example, Tobias said that his journey towards leadership came through being inquisitive and, curiosity about certain challenges that people were presenting to him. And for you, it was a personal experience where you had this kind of impediment and you wanted to rise above it. And in the course of rising above it, you find yourself in leadership. So I want to ask you something I've always wondered. They say you can have the most amazing ideas in your mind, but if you can't express them, no one will ever know and no one will ever care to know. So my question is, how important is that relationship between leadership and good communication?
There's a very close relationship. In fact, the two are inseparable. Leaders have to be communicators, very good communicators, because leadership is about directing people, helping them discover their talents, vision casting, leading projects, pointing people towards the vision and the mission. All that takes words. And that's why you need very good communication skills to be able to put all that in words in a way that resonates with the people that you're talking to, in a way that they understand it. Therefore, communication and leadership go hand in hand.
Okay. So this is a podcast, so naturally I'll also have to say some things that are a bit controversial. So, so good communication can lead to good leadership, right? But I imagine poor communication or intentionally communicating the wrong thing can also lead to, misleading other people as well. So people can use communication for the wrong reasons. I want to read a statement by Dr. Miles Monroe, a great leadership thinker who passed on, and I'd love to hear your reactions. So he says, "Nothing happens without leadership. Nothing changes without leadership. Nothing develops without leadership. Nothing improves without leadership. Nothing is corrected without leadership. Everyone, everywhere, every time is always being led in some way or some fashion. Whatever conditions, circumstances, or predicament in which a person, family, community, organization, or nation find themselves, someone has led it there." What do you
That
think?
is a great
Not my
statement.
words, his words.
That is a great statement from Miles Monroe. I want to say that looking at life from God's perspective,
Yeah.
from the beginning, the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the first introduction that we find from that statement alone, even though God is holy, He's righteous, He's mighty, the first thing that God tells us about Himself is that He's a creator.
Okay.
And we're also being told that we are created in His image and likeness. So what does that one mean? It means, therefore, that we have the creativity within us. Each and every person has creativity within us that God expects him to use that creativity, and that makes him a leader.
Okay.
That makes him a leader.
So are you saying, do I understand you to be saying that in each and every one of us is a capacity to lead? Because, for example, Jeff, you describe yourself as a brilliant, buoyant 9-year-old. Truth be told, not everybody is buoyant, and brilliance is in a spectrum. Are you saying that everybody can lead, or certain people are designed to lead? Are some people more leaders than others, and others just followers? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the big question that is asked every time. Are leaders born, or can they be made? I believe leaders can be made, and in each one of us is a potential to become a leader.
Okay.
There's a potential in each one of us to lead at several domains, different levels of leadership. We all carry within us that quality that God gave to us. He's just talked about God is creative. And the first thing God told us about ourselves is that we are also creators. Be fruitful, multiply,
Okay. Interesting.
replenish, and have
That's a different
dominion.
way to see it. Interesting. Okay.
So God has put within us a seed of His creativity,
Okay.
and He's described creativity as one of the aspects of leadership. So with that God-likeness within us, I believe everyone can be a leader, starting first with self-leadership,
Okay.
leading yourself, self-direction, knowing what you're supposed to do, having plans for your own life, and planning your life. That level of leadership is available to everybody. Come now to the family level. There's leadership in the family. Every family, as the nucleus of society, needs leadership. There are people that can exercise leadership in that level, bring up well-adjusted children that will become contributing members of society. That doesn't happen by default. It takes some form of leadership. You go to an institution like a school, like a small business, there's need for leadership there. Therefore, leadership is available everywhere. I agree with Miles Monroe.
Okay.
Things get done because of leadership.
Okay.
And in the absence of leadership, what do you have? Chaos.
So on that point, on your last point, I argue that there can never be an absence of leadership. That's my argument. My argument is that there can be an absence of good leadership, but I feel like leadership is almost like it's almost consistently in the background. It's like almost like air. Basically, the way I see it is that leaders are either problem solvers. This is something that Miles Monroe talks about. You can be a problem solver, or you can be a problem creator. And I think what we often don't reflect on is the extent to which leadership also causes problems. So, from your own experience, what are some of the challenges you have seen, observed through wrong leadership or ineffective leadership?
Yeah, I think when a leader is not aligned according to his purpose, he will influence people in a wrong way. Because God himself created human beings to lead. And we have two sets of governance. We have the governance in heaven, which is God is the one enthroned.
Okay.
But on this earth, he let that leadership to be done by human beings, but according to his word, according to his system,
Okay.
because God has a system. So whenever a leader is misaligned, then he becomes a dictator, becomes an abuser of his leadership role, and chaos take place. The Bible says that when the righteous is on the throne, people rejoice. Why? Because that righteous has influence.
Okay.
He puts up systems that are right, systems that are developing people, growing people, experiencing justice. So people rejoice. But when you have a wrong person on that chair, then people are also crying.
Okay.
So that is the aspect that I see. Leadership can either influence negatively or positively, depends on the alignment or misalignment of the purpose.
Miles Monroe says that leadership is so crucial that these are some of the things that he says arise out of poor leadership. In any context, I think, Jeff, you spoke about whether it's a personal level or all the way through to a corporate level. He says the products of poor leadership are fear, disillusionment, anger, distrust, hyper-competitiveness, greed, devaluation of human life, abuse, violence, and even war. My question is, we are an extremely religious continent and a very religious country. And most of us attend a service, or whether online or physically, fairly regularly. And it could be Muslim, could be Christian, Hindu, whatever the faith. Why do we see such a preponderance of these issues? Why do we see so much disillusionment, fear, devaluing of human life, and yet we are extremely religious? Why is there a disconnect between our faith and the influence that we're having?
Yeah, let me attempt to answer that question. A Jewish friend of mine had the privilege to go to Israel in 2015. And there are three things that shocked me when I went to Israel. The first thing that shocked me was that they live for so long, because some of our lectures were 80, 90, even 100.
And strong.
Very strong.
Interesting. Okay.
That's number one. Number two, they had billions of dollars in reserve as a nation. That really shocked me.
Okay.
Because I found myself saying, this is a country that is very young, not too old.
Yeah, 47.
It's in a desert,
47.
a desert land.
Yeah.
But number one, they live for so long. Why? Number two, they have billions of dollars in reserve. And I found myself asking a question. The level of Christianity there is 4%. Of course, they use Torah.
Yes.
But one of the things that really shocked me, coming back to my own country, which is 85% Christians,
Okay.
and you look at the level of corruption, the level of unfaithfulness in how we serve our nation, it kind of brings a shock to find out, is there something wrong with our faith and what we practice. And coming back to what I discovered, that sometimes the emphasis is in what I believe and not what I do.
Okay.
When you're going for a journey, for example, you're not going to plan for the next 1 month or 1 year when you know tomorrow you're traveling to a certain country and you're going to be there forever. So there's a tendency of neglect because you want to escape, you're going.
Okay.
And that is very dangerous. I think the Bible wants us to put our faith in practice. Faith without action is dead. And so when our values are not rhyming up with what God intended us to be, we tend to abuse the position. We tend to abuse the opportunity that God has given to us. Leadership is stewardship. Stewardship of resources, stewardship of talents, stewardship of gifts, stewardship of time.
Interesting.
So that is how I look at it. So one of the things that really shocked me, the rabbi asked me, told me, Tobias, do you know what it means to serve the Lord? I said, to serve the Lord is to be a preacher. So he told me, no.
Interesting.
Serving the Lord from a Jewish perspective is that if you see a driver carrying people to work, he's serving the Lord. If you see a cook, a chef, making food in the kitchen, he's serving the Lord, just like a preacher is preaching. He knocked out my theology completely because for a long time I thought that being a servant of the Lord is to be an apostle, be a prophet, to be a pastor. I realized anytime you use your gift to serve other people's children, you are serving God.
That's really fascinating. It reminds me of something I heard said by a famous banker, Goldman Sachs, a huge global bank. The CEO then, I think is called Lloyd Blankfein. He said, he's asked, why do you do what you do? And he says, the work that I do, I enjoy doing it, banking, and I do this because this is God's work. And I think a lot of people are confused why he related banking to God's work, but maybe because of his Jewish heritage, I can see the connection you're trying to make between the way we serve in practice and our faith. What are your thoughts about what Tobias has said?
I think he's quite right in that the Bible, I believe, is the template, the textbook for life. The disconnect comes when we misunderstand the Bible and we misuse it in religion. You find the people that are holding the Bible, using it, preaching as it were, but either they're insincere, they're only picking segments and portions of the Bible to drive their own agenda.
Yes.
But if you can look into the Bible, it tells us into the law of liberty, continue therein, not being forgetful. So it means you look at the Bible and like Reverend Tobias has said, you do, you practice it. You're not just reading it. You'll find it becoming a reality that the Bible is just about everyday life, principles, patterns, prayers to guide us in our everyday life. So I do agree with that Goldman Sachs executive. Every service to God is actually service to humanity. So we can serve God in whatever sphere we are by number one, being honest, forthright, helpful to other people, dedicated, time conscious, not stealing your employer's time, not shortchanging your customers. Because when you serve God's people, you're actually serving God. And service to God, I believe, is being obsessed with the needs of other God's people and finding a solution and making it available to them in a way that they feel comfortable to pay you the price that they're asking you. In that way, you find that business is actually serving God.
Okay. So this is all well and good, everything you said. It sounds, there's a term in English called Pollyannish. It means, sounds almost dreamy, sounds very optimistic. But as they say in Swahili, vitu kwa ground, be different. So I'm wondering, the reality is you can be an executive, you can be a banker, and then you find yourself in a situation where there's a juicy deal that's not very clean, or you're a corporate executive, you're chairing a board, and there's an opportunity that you know is not completely over the table. What happens in that moment when you're faced with a temptation, and then there's also your faith? What can someone do in practice, or what have you done in practice to override that temptation? What's your moral calculus in such times?
So
Because I'm assuming you're not perfect. I'm sure there've been moments when you've been tested, and things were tricky. Yeah.
the number one thing is for you first to be guided by your faith, your belief, with things like honesty, being forthright, transparent. So what you're about to do, does it align with your faith, with your beliefs? Does it align with the Word of God? Then if you're in an organization, you find you also have your corporate rules. Are you breaking any of those rules? And you find most of those rules, if not all of them, they're designed as safeguards against those situations. When there's that juicy deal, what does the company constitution say?
But let's just be a bit more. So are you telling me, Jeff, you're telling me that at the point when you're about to close a deal, the company needs this deal because you're trying to break even. Maybe you've been in the red for a long time. And you're saying at that point, you're meant to have this prompt in your mind, or the company values say X or Y. This is what my faith says. Is that what you're saying happens in practice? Or are you saying that we should be so exposed to the word and to our principles that it's almost automatic that come the situation, the framework is already there. You're not processing so much. What?
Yeah, I want to draw from Jesus' message.
Mm-hmm.
When Jesus came into this world, his message was one message of the kingdom. He said, repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And the word repent means change your mind, change your mindset. The attempt or the temptation to steal gives a disclaimer that either you don't know who you are. For example, if you know your father is very rich, you have everything.
Yeah.
Would you want to steal? Will you be driven to steal?
You're saying it's a poverty mindset.
It's a poverty mindset. It's a mindset of lack of identity, of knowing who you are. God's in the kingdom of God, we are sons, and we have creativity within us. God has not left anybody poor. God has put a creativity within us. The question is, how are we drawing from that creativity to use it to bless others? Paul says in a guy that used to steal, and he said, whoever used to steal should no longer steal, but should find meaningful work to do so that he can support others. In other words, there's a transformation that takes place. If you are a thief and you've found your purpose, you will find meaningful work that helps you, but also supports you to support others. That's the transformation that needs to take place. There's a need for a mindset change.
Okay. On that point, about some, I think in Latin they call it metanoia, or kind of flipping around. So Kenya, one of our traits or characteristics, they say, is we are. There are many ways to describe this. You could say cunning. You could say we're very wily,
shrewd.
We're very shrewd, ujanja. And I've observed this. Like, there's another way to phrase it. You could potentially say we're shrewd, or you could say we're innovative, because when you're on a road, you can see a matatu guy make a road where there was no road. Like it's just very fascinating. Yeah. You see people cut deals and find opportunities where there seem to be none. I ask myself sometimes, if we channeled this correctly, could we not outdo Silicon Valley? Could we not have all these innovations that the world needs if we're channeling it correctly? What do you think? Do you think that it's just a mindset shift that we need, that maybe we're doing the wrong things, but with the right leadership and the guidance, we could go the right way? And what would you do if you found yourselves in a position of decision making at a national level. What is one thing you might suggest for society to do to make things go in a better direction?
Yeah, I think to me it's very important for us to understand that God has invited us to explore what He has given unto us. The problem is not lack of resources. I think the problem is a mindset change. I want to give you an example of a bishop friend of mine who went to Yatta, a dry place, where for years and years, government would send food, and if government does not send relief, people would die. But this bishop went there. He mobilized the community. Most of them were women. He said, if the rains don't come more often, what do we do? Do we need rain to grow food or we need water? They said, we need water. He said, okay, why can't we now dig water ponds so that we wait when the rain comes, we collect some water and grow food? In November last year, I went there physically and I was astounded. In the midst of nowhere, the land is wealthy, has much production, and most of they even make their own bread. It's called Yatta bread.
Okay.
Why? Because of the mindset change.
Okay. So I think you're both familiar that over 70% of our country is arid and semi-arid. That's the majority of the land space that we have. Only 30% is arable. It's the Kenya that we know. The question is, and then you've heard of this Galana Kulalu. I'm sure you've seen some of the irrigation happening there. And it is also said that there's a massive amount of water. I think it's some kind of water shelf underneath the ground in the arid areas. My question is, how impactful do you think it would be? Or what can we do in order for us to kind of optimize some of these talents and these resources that God has given us as a country? Why are we purely focused on the 30% of the country that we're focused on and leaving the 70%? How much wealthier would Kenya be if the other 70% was developed or arable and so on? Because you've seen Israel.
Yeah.
Israel is completely dry.
Yes.
But they export oranges, and pineapples around the world.
Exactly, yeah. That's I was going to pull him in because he's been to Israel. I haven't. I think that 70% you're talking about is not as bad as Israel.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just the right focus, like you're saying. If we could focus broader, have innovative projects like the one he's talked about, and also be productive, believe in our capabilities and the ability of God to help us, we have a lot of potential. But you find leadership is not focused on that. If we can talk a little bit about that,
Yeah.
Leaders are concerned about enriching themselves. But if you go to the Bible, you find there are certain instructions that the kings were given. When you get on that throne, your responsibility or assignment number one, go get a copy of the law from the priest of that day.
Interesting.
Make a copy for yourself. Not for decoration for your shelf, so that you can read it every day.
Interesting.
So that you can know what to do, have righteous judgment, and most importantly, to see within that law that you're not better or superior to your brothers. So the more you read the law, you find out how weak you are, you find out how much you need God. But also in there you find out ideas. God inspires you. You also see through the law how you're supposed to live with your brothers, be a helper to them, not to think that you're king to rule over them, boss over them, extract.
Yeah.
So that was the instruction and responsibility of the leaders in Israel. Your first responsibility, go get a copy of the law so that you can read it every day. If you read it every day, you'll know what to do. You'll be a useful leader. You'll be useful to your brothers, and you'll not think about yourself. It says, so that you may not amass wives to yourself, riches, gold, silver for yourself. So it doesn't mean kings were not supposed to be wealthy. Solomon was very wealthy,
Yeah.
but he did not do it for himself. He was doing it for the common of the kingdom, for the common good of the kingdom. So if our leaders could be God-focused, we would have better outcomes.
Okay. There's something that has always kind of bothered my mind. There's a phrase in politics or political science that says, vox populi, vox Dei. I don't know if you've come across that. They say the voice of the people is the voice of God. So they use that in a democratic sense. When someone gets voted in, they said, thus the Lord has spoken. That's why I got elected. So where I'm going with this is, what is your feeling? From what you said, Jeff, you said kings are meant to lead a certain way, guided by, the laws of the land, God's laws, essentially, or nowadays maybe a constitution as well. So does that mean anybody can be fit to lead as long as they observe those laws? Or are you saying that there are certain people who are meant to lead and without question, irrespective of whether they observe the laws or not? Because as it stands today, there are people who are in leadership and they say, if God didn't want me to lead, I wouldn't have been elected. So it seems as though now they have license to lead however they want to lead. And you don't have to be, I'm not saying specifically Kenya, I'm just saying even the world over, once they're elected, people feel as if they have license by God to lead however they want to lead.
We have to admit that there is both good leadership and bad leadership. So bad leadership cannot claim that they're supposed to be there, that God put them there. Well, there are exceptions where a society may be going under judgment, punishment, and you get a really terrible leader who is a reflection of the rest of the society.
Okay.
But ideally, good leadership comes from God. God gives you good leaders.
Okay.
But where you have a bad leader that claims, it's easy to convolute a statement which in one application is true and correct, like the voice of the people is the voice of God, but not always. Look at societies that have really gone down the drain. In the Bible, Sodom, for example, would you say the voice of the people of Sodom was the voice of God?
No.
Definitely not. But when they made David the king, the voice of the people was the voice of God.
Okay.
So both yes and no.
So gentlemen, where there's a distinction between good and bad leadership, where can we find righteous leaders or good leaders? Where are they hiding, if they are hiding, if they exist, and how do you identify them? I say this also because you're in pastoral work. I know you meet all sorts of people. You're also in the space of communications. And as you said, people can convolute a statement. They can say anything to come across as wonderful. So my question is, how should Africans identify good leaders if they haven't had a chance to spend time with them? Whether it's at the ballot or it's to rise through an organization.
I think if we can talk about Kenya, we have this big monster of tribalism, our person. If people can just change this mindset and begin to interrogate people aspiring for leadership on the basis of their competence, their record, I see there being a need for a process which literally puts you through some screening.
Okay.
So I want to know, who are you, where are you from, what have you done, regardless of your tribe, regardless of where you come from. We're looking at you as a Kenyan, as a human being. What is your track record? What do people say about you, people that know you? I think we have overlooked these aspects of vetting leadership.
Okay.
And people have found their way into leadership on the basis of their tribe, tyranny of numbers and all this that we hear. Because you're from a certain tribe, people just blindly behind you. And you've seen for yourself, later on, people get to regret what they did.
Buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
Okay. Rev, what are your thoughts on where we can find this leadership? And are Christians who are capable of good leadership simply too scared to enter into the business marketplace or the political marketplace?
Yeah, I think because of our orientation, I began by saying that the fact that you were told, be spiritual anything to do with leadership is of the world, financing is of the world, and things like that. That was a wrong concept.
Okay.
I believe the church must prepare the congregants. And I said one day, I said, if the gospel is the good news, and it does not answer how I put food on the table, then it's not the good news. If it is the good news, it does not answer how the road that comes to my place can be tarmacked, then it's not the good news. In other words, the gospel is the good news because it answers every aspect of life, every question that concerns every aspect of life. The question of stewardship, the question of developing the next generation, the question of making sure that the gifts and the talents that we have in that congregations are developed into leadership, and telling them to lead is not evil, but you must have values so that when you are a leader, you know the values that carry you into that space.
Okay.
That's how I want to look at it.
Okay. Churchill says that of all the values that anybody can have, the most important is courage, because courage is what enables you to exercise any other value. So you have to be honest, you have to be courageous first, to say the truth, and to stand firm, etc. So my thoughts are, what do you think about the place of courage, especially faith and courage? And then my other question is tied to something you said, Jeff, about tribalism. So I think there's tribalism, there's gender bias and genderism, and there's also ageism, both older and younger. How much do you think these things impact our society? So the fact that we say, we don't accept you, we exclude you on the basis of your tribe, or on the basis of your age, or on the basis of your gender. Is that godly? And how is that affecting us as a society?
It's definitely not godly. And I think it's a case of focus on the wrong things. People that are excluding you because of your age, your tribe, maybe your color, they are very focused on the outward. That's the physical. But we are both physical and spiritual. And the most important aspects that should make you, like we're talking of leadership, honesty, courage that you talked about, all those are spiritual qualities. So if people could have a focus on the spiritual as opposed to the physical, then you find we'll make better choices. Because a wrong spirit versus a right spirit is easy to identify.
Okay.
But when you're looking at the physicality, tall, dark, handsome, all that, it's easy, very easy to make a wrong choice. Because someone said, when you're deceived, it's probably through your eyes, what you saw, your first initial perception. But proper judgment comes through the ears. Hear the person, what is he saying? What are his values? And someone said you need to spend about 7 hours with somebody for you to really get to know them.
7 hours
Yes.
of
had them.
deliberate attempts to. Okay.
Yes. Maybe in one sitting or maybe different interactions. So it takes a total of 7 hours for you to really judge this person and know whether you like them or you don't rhyme, whether you're in sync with them or not. So it takes a lot of time with a person, hearing them, quizzing them, ask them different things from different perspective.
Yeah.
Then you get to know whether that's the right spirit or not.
Okay.
But if you just look at the age, or you look at the height or the complexion, and you allow that bias, you've not even given that person a chance to speak.
Okay.
You've not even had them out.
Okay.
You don't know what they believe about justice, about fairness, about service. When you get to know them, you'll find you're attracted to somebody that outwardly didn't look attractive. There's also discrimination on your abilities.
Of course.
I'm trying to look for the politically correct wording there, but you know what I mean.
Different capabilities.
Yeah,
yes.
differently abled people.
Yes, yes.
You can look at them and easily dismiss them.
Yeah.
But when you get to talk to them, you find out, wow, this is a wealth of knowledge
Absolutely. Yeah.
and skills and talents, just because you looked beyond what you see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rev.
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I see from this aspect is that fear, shame, guilt actually came after the fall. Remember when God created the man, Adam and Eve, they were in the Garden of Eden. The Bible says they were naked and not ashamed. But the moment they disobeyed God, fear came in, shame came in, and guilt also came in. And so, if you are a man of faith or a woman of faith, it is important to know that anything that has to do with fear, shame, and guilt are not from God. And you should be bold enough to challenge a situation, to speak up
Okay.
when something is going wrong. I also believe that the church must be able to teach values because all these leaders are coming from churches. I wonder why some of them are in CU, some of them in their campuses, serving God. But when they get into the political office, they can't speak. Why?
Let me ask a controversial question
Yeah.
on that point. So churches today, they give advice on financial planning, financial management, and stuff. So there's a spiritual side, but now there's also a financial side. But do you think that churches should also offer insights or any wisdom or discernment on things like political leadership and other aspects of life? Because sometimes these same politicians are congregates. They go to these churches, but no one is speaking to their issues specifically. In fact, they then allow these politicians to now preach to the congregation. I'm not saying that's necessarily wrong. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that perhaps some of them are going the wrong way simply because there's no one trying to help them navigate that challenging path of going through politics while also having faith. Do you think that the curriculum of spiritual education should be expanded on a Sunday so that people are also, or even on another day, on a Saturday, calling politicians and say, hey, these are some of the spiritual tools you need in your domain? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the church should be the center of transformation in every aspect of leadership.
Okay.
The spiritual authority needs to understand that these people have come here to be prepared to lead. So where there are politicians, it is important for us to speak to them and tell them that when God gives you a responsibility of leadership, it is not for your personal gain, it's for the service of the people. And so you take care of resources that God has given unto you in your constituency. For example, you talk about semi-arid and arid regions.
Yeah.
Those are places where I'm sure the government gives allocation every year.
Yeah.
But maybe this money just dwindles somewhere. No, they don't want to build their roads. They don't want to build their schools. How come? It's because leaders think that to be a politician is not the only leadership that is required. But I believe that the church must understand that it is the center of governance that needs to represent what God expects people to have. So every aspect of leadership must be addressed.
There's a parable of the talents, right? I think in the Bible it says something like, in short, at the end of the day, God will ask, what did you do with what I gave you? Do you ever think that perhaps there could be a moment where collectively, as a nation, we could be asked, Kenya, I gave you this much land. I gave you these resources that you could mine. I gave you these people, this human talent. I gave you these trees and these water bodies. What did you do with it? And how would you think we would answer that question before God, what we did with the resources that he gave us?
I think we would really fail terribly. And that's why I am convicted that we need to know that there's no bad place. It's just bad management and poor mentality and mindset. Every place God has put us. And God has proven to it. I've told you the case of Israel. A desert, but it's feeding the world. Building their own, capital, financial capital, that even can sustain them from the next generation. And thinking about the next generation. My problem with our leaders today, and with myself also, is that sometimes we are short-sighted. We just want to think about me and me only. What about the next generation that is coming? What are we preparing for? The Bible says a good man leaves inheritance to his children's children. In other words, a generation, a wealth that sustains 4 generations down the line. How do you do that? By making sure that we become stewards of the resources God has given unto us.
Roughly how long is a generation?
Generation
What
is 40 years.
It's about 40 years.
Yes, about 40 years.
You said how many generations? 4 generations.
4 generations.
So we're saying 160.
120 or plus, 60 plus,
120,
yes.
160.
So as we think of any decision we make,
Yeah.
how will it affect people 120 years from today?
So I only know, it's tragic, I only know the Chinese to do that degree of planning. That apparently when the Chinese guys meet as, as a council, as parliament, on these special sittings, they say, China 100 years from now, what will people be eating? What will they be doing?
Yeah.
At least 100 years. And us guys, I mean, clearly we're not doing, probably not even doing 30 years. Why do you think that is?
I told you
Yeah.
that when I went to Israel, the third thing that shocked me was that they had Israel planned for the next 100 years. And the people that were in the forefront were elder people, older people.
Interesting.
Because they are thinking about the next generation.
What makes me sad about that is that you're saying elderly people are thinking about 100 years from now. And yet in other contexts, you find elderly people are saying, well, I've lived a good life. These problems won't be my problems. I'll leave them for whoever. So for example, like we have a terrible debt situation in Africa and Kenya specifically. The people who pick up that tab for the debt are, your children, my children. How is that a sense of justice? And how is that a sense of justice from your perspective?
I think it's not fair, and it's because of politicians. Miles Monroe, who you've quoted a lot, said there's a difference between politicians and leaders. Leaders think of the next generation. Politicians think of the next election. They're just thinking, how do I get elected next term? And because of that difference in perception, that's why we have all these problems, because we are led by politicians, people that don't care about the next generation. They only care about themselves and now. So they're now focused, they're not future focused.
So I guess my reaction to that is there are two leaders who I know who some would say they're anti-democratic because they don't have those cycles, but maybe because they don't have those cycles, they have thought long term. So Lee Kuan Yew, who led Singapore, who I guess we've been talking about Singapore a lot in the country. He was leader of the country for a long time, and he had a chance to plan out for a long time. The same thing with Kagame. My question is, just imagine behind the veil of ignorance, do you think, and drawing from kingdom principles, what do you think the model of leadership should be? Do you think the problem is these repeated cycles we have every 5 years? Do you think that should be rethought, and then we say, okay, maybe have 7 years, or we say, okay, maybe we just have like politicians or a party govern for a long while? What do you think the practical solution is to a situation where people are currently chasing this 5-year cycle?
I think there's a place. There's a place for short terms and long terms, because sometimes you don't want someone to be there for too long. I believe even within a 5-year period is good enough for somebody to do a good job, to deserve another 5 years. And if they're really focused on what they're doing, 10 years would really be enough for them to have an impact. And that doesn't mean when they come out of that position, there are many other roles that they can have in society to continue leading, giving wisdom. We've also had, before these changes, the very reason that now people have definite terms in office. Before that, we didn't have them. We still had the same problem.
So like challenges, yes. Okay. Rev, what do you think?
I think it is important for us to plan long term and mobilize the country to think about long time. Whether I'm going to be there for 5 years, whoever comes continues with that value. And it is important for us to mobilize the communities, to mobilize the entire nation, to think critically about our nation and say, how will it be the next 100 years in terms of education system, in terms of health, in terms of agriculture. How will, so that the country, the entire nation is mobilized to think about that long term and what we want to do. So that even if I become a leader today for 5 years, somebody else comes in, he continues with the same philosophy.
So I feel like one thing that really jumps out to me from what you're both saying is like, we need like a team mindset. You know, like for those who watch football, you know, even if you have to sub out the main striker, you have to have the team arranged in such a way that someone else can come in and continue the agenda of winning the game. And I think maybe sometimes when we vote, we're too individualistic. We're saying, this is the person I want, instead of thinking, these are the set of people who should be in leadership, who, if there are ever any transitions, someone else can come in and another person can come in, and we keep moving forward. My final 2 questions are around, one is around youth. I think you all are familiar with the Gen Z protests and etc. I was on the street. Some of the people were as well. So my question is, what thoughts would you give on leadership to Gen Zs and millennials? Touching on your point, Jeff, you said that it takes 7 hours with someone to understand them, to know them, to judge them. We live in a time when there's an attention deficit where, you know, a few seconds reading something, you know, you swipe and look for something else. What advice can you give younger people, millennials like myself and Gen Zs, you know, in guiding in self-leading and becoming leaders? Yeah, for both of you.
Yeah, I think in leadership, the key thing is for you to be an effective leader. It's not for yourself, it's for a larger community, for the greater good. So as the young people are aspiring for leadership, I think that's a very important mindset. Do you want leadership because you want power? That's the wrong route to leadership, or the wrong reason why you could want leadership. So if for us to have impactful leadership, they have to do it for the right reason. It is for the common good, for a bigger cause, in order to rectify the many things that are definitely wrong. But even as voters, is to really interrogate the people that are aspiring for leadership. These Gen Zs, if they register, and they should register to vote, they should be the ones that determine who will be our next leaders. And I like the fact that they like transparency, honesty, and things that work. If they can carry that passion to the ballot box, not be blinded by tribalism, nepotism, whatever it is, but vote for the right kind of leaders. They are the people that we are looking up to bring the change that we are hoping for.
So they can determine the next 100 years.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And you, Reb, what would you say to Gen Zs and millennials and so on leadership?
Yeah, I think they have great potential, but they need to package it.
Okay.
They need to sell it. What solution are you providing? And I'm sure if they are able to sell that among themselves and say, these are solutions, there are 1, 2, 3 for the next 100 years, I'm sure they will take the leadership. Sometimes there is protest with no package solution that they're providing. And that's where now they lose the momentum.
So should they be relegated to just voters, or should they also be ready to participate? There might be a Gen Z watching this who's thinking, okay, is my job just to pick up a voter's card and choose someone? Or are you also saying they are at liberty, using God's principles, to also exercise leadership? If other older people are not doing it right, they can also do it.
You know, leadership is a calling. And I believe that young people must be prepared to lead.
Okay.
But we must prepare them with values. We must prepare them with systems in place to sustain those values. We must prepare them with courage to know that when you lead, you're actually taking a responsibility. Many people are looking up to you.
Yeah.
It's also important for us to know that you not remain young for long. Because 50 years from now, you'll be an old man. Somebody will point at you and say, you're an old man. So it is important for us to know that you have a time. And this time, make use of your skills, make use of your time properly, develop skills, and package it in such a way that you can sell it to the country. And people will vote for you as well.
Okay. Yeah. Gentlemen, my final question, absolute final question is, Do you remember the time you discovered your gift, or one of your gifts, God-given gifts, and how did you come to that moment?
I have come to discover over time that I have a gift of leadership. And like I said before, it got unlocked when I began to know how to express myself. So my frustration was, I have these ideas, I can see the way things are supposed to be done, but I'm that shy young man who wants to hide behind the pillar.
Okay.
So the day I discovered how to express myself, express the aspirations of a group of people,
Yeah.
is when now everything came together
Okay.
to understand that leadership is about communication, and
Okay.
leaders need to be good communicators.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think I had a conversation from John Maxwell that says if you want to change something in your life, you have to be intentional. And one of the areas that I really wanted to be intentional about was to ask this question: how does success look like from God's perspective?
Interesting.
So I became a student of the Bible. I read the Bible for the first time, came back the second time, came back the third time. By the time I was finishing the Bible for the third time, 5 key indicators became apparent for me as the true measure of success. Number 1, the discovery of your purpose. Number 2, achievement of wholeness. Peace in your mind, in your heart, and in your body. Number 3, wealth creation. A good man leaves inheritance to his children. Number 4, relationship. How do you relate with the people around you? It's a wealth in itself. And then number 4, legacy, the next generation, long-term thinking. How will people remember me after I leave the stage? Because life is like a stage. You play your part, you leave. But how will people remember you? Will they remember you as a wise person or as a thief? The question is yours to answer.
That is fantastic. So, viewers, thank you for taking the time to listen to these great gentlemen speak about leadership. Jeff has left us with a lot to think about, including the fact that sometimes the impediment to leadership is our capacity to communicate clearly. Tobias has also challenged us with 5 very, very clear points. And he's also told us and cautioned us that life is like a stage. We're only here briefly. And before you know it, we're off the stage. The question to all of you is that how are you going to go about your life going forward? Are you going to lead well, or are you going to mislead others? Thanks very much. This is Andrew Levi on the 254 podcast. And gentlemen, it's been an honest pleasure. Thank you.